What up, roomies? Tonight's guest has spent more than 3 decades sitting with people during some of the darkest and most vulnerable moments of their lives. He's worked with thousands of couples, led hundreds of marriages, and helped people navigate fear, conflict, trauma, communication breakdowns, and the complex realities of human relationships. But what's fascinating about his story is that it didn't begin in a classroom. It began with a terrifying experience inside of his own home that challenged everything he thought he knew about relationships, fear, spirituality, and human behavior. Tonight, we're exploring love, marriage, communication, and why people fall in and out of love, why modern relationships struggle, and why so many couples today give up too quickly, and how fear challenges the way we see ourselves and the people closest to us. We're also going to be diving into his paranormal experiences and some uncomfortable questions about what may be happening inside people, their relationships, and homes, and things that we don't fully understand. Welcome to the podcast, Keith. How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing real good. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I hope it goes both ways. I've looked at your YouTube channel. I've looked at some of the guests you have and the topics you get into, and I think you ask excellent questions that go deep. As a counselor, I'm definitely into asking questions, so I look forward to what you're asking me, and
I look forward to diving into your deep well of wisdom and knowledge about not only like how you got into your line of work, but also like, navigating, modern day relationships, like why people fall in and out of love, and some advice that my father gave me before we actually start off the podcast. And this is words that I've always kept with me, was that he told me his secret to a 40-year marriage was that to remember that, my mother is an individual. She has her own dreams and aspirations, but he's there to help her with that, but also do his own thing as well, because he's also an individual. And sometimes it's going to be work. It's not always going to be running through a field of flowers. Sometimes it's going to be dark days where you two have to work and choose to love each other.
That's really good.
Yeah,
good advice. Yeah, people tend to lose themselves at times.
True on that. So
So where do you want to start?
Also, let's start off with this one. After 30 years of sitting with couples, right?
Yep.
What do most people completely misunderstand about love?
Ooh, that it's this isn't necessarily number one, but what comes to mind is that they think if they're, especially in marriages, if they're managing life well, they have a good relationship and love is flowing between two people. And the logistics come in, the functionality. I see the couples, by the time they reach me, they stop talking about the important things. They're keeping a safe distance from each other, and they're just trying to function with the who, what, where, when, how are we going to get this done? And that, in their mind, is success. They think, I'm doing better than what I saw my parents do, and so then this must be what love is like. And you also want to really understand what your spouse thinks love is like, so that you can aim at creating that for them in the environment and the things that you do together. It's not just your own personal understanding of love. It's like, what does love look like for you? And how can I contribute to that being more of your experience in life?
I get that. So like with couples, when they get to, when they are finally sitting down in front of you, do you see that they still truly love each other? Or is it more that resentment's built up because of maybe a lack of, chase, or a lack of, spontaneousness, or, things of that nature?
It's like you've been sitting in my office or in my Zoom calls listening. And, you're asking questions no one's asked. I would say very few are in love. Well, here's what they say. I love them. I love them a lot. I'll never not love them. I just don't like them most of the time. Okay, so what is that? What do you want? Do you want love? Do you want to be liked? Would you rather be loved for a day or liked for a day? What's going to make the biggest impact in your relationship? And so you're coming up with your own terms and what people understand to be. I moved from Toronto, Canada, down to Colorado Springs 23 years ago, and I joined a nonprofit marriage counseling office. And I joined because there's only one counselor at the time, and they had a 3-year wait list because it was a nonprofit. Some of these, John Gottman is the relationship scientist guru, and he says most couples wait 6 years past what they should before they book counseling. So these couples were waiting those 6 years, plus they had another 3 years to wait before they came in. So everything is compounding. Yeah. And some had actually gotten divorced during the wait time. And then they said, you know what, we still got this appointment. We're not with anybody else. Let's go. And they would come for like 15 hours in 1 week. Yeah. And things turned around enough. It wasn't just a breakthrough. It was actually change that they could build upon. And they ended up getting remarried. I got to perform some of those ceremonies at different times. So they come in crisis. They come, I think you use the word resentment, bitterness. Yeah. That is really the love killer. Maybe hate is an opposite of love, but I think bitterness and resentment is an enemy of love. We don't have to look at like necessarily what the opposite is, but what are the enemies? And resentment is completely up there. That was my own downfall in my marriage. I know now, I was letting resentment come in, and it tainted so much of my marriage. I wouldn't want to be married to me either.
Okay. I get that. And like, when it comes down to resentment, how does it kind of looks when like resentment for a man versus resentment for a woman? I know they're kind of different, and like the subject matters of what they pick out, and like, oh, I resent her for this, or I resent him for that. Like, what would you kind of say would be like the top things people mostly say that they resent their partner for?
Women, it's not having their emotional needs met, their emotional desires met. That sends the message unintended. The impact on the husband when he hears it or realizes he's not doing good enough to make her happy, then he starts resenting her for making him feel that way, not enough, shame, regret, that sort of thing. Whatever the topics are, there can be some very clear, rare types of resentments that come in. Like, say a couple talks about having, a family of 4, and then like the week after they get married, the husband says, I changed my mind, I never want kids. Right now the wife's stuck in this, even though they talked about those kinds of resentments are like kind of one-offs, one of a kinds. But general resentment for the way they're being mistreated and things, the solution is going to be the same on both sides of it, and there's always a path back.
I got you on that. And would you say like 90% of the problem is because of the fact that they don't know how to communicate with each other, even though they've been in love and they, gone through so much with each other? Communication's not where it should be, right?
They're all talking during the dating phase. Most are talking very well during the dating phase. Resentment, I see resentment as, okay, all the couples I work with are struggling with their level of maturity. They don't have the maturity level they need for a marriage where 2 people are simultaneously satisfied. I never meet those couples. They're simultaneously satisfied. So what are they doing? They're growing together, going on dates, volunteering in the community, raising their family. So it means the people that are coming to me can't find that in their relationship. So they're at a lower level of that maturity. Now, as far as resentment, the lowest level of maturity is where it's kind of childish. It's like, it's all a little kid can do to feel like they have some control and power when they're really young and things aren't going well, is they hold on to resentment. And that feeds their brains. Now, if they never grow beyond that, that's what they're going to bring into the relationship. And when they hit a problem, one of the first things they go to is holding on to resentment. And so it can take at times moments where they let it go. They forgive it, they let it go. I'm not going to carry that anymore. I'm not going to bring it to mind. There's going to be other and more often situations where they also need to learn to personally grow and develop new, more mature coping mechanisms for the state or the stage that their relationship is at.
I got you. So like, how does how does a couple like kind of like ensure that they're at the level of maturity they need to like prosper and have a happy marriage? And I know when I say happy marriage, it's not going to be all happy all the time,
Right.
but a thriving working marriage.
And that's why I talk about mutual satisfaction.
Yeah.
Couples come to me, they might have their goals, they might know what they want help with. I tell every couple, for sure, I want you to have a mutually satisfying, enjoyable marriage. Anybody opposed to that?
Well,
Nobody. Like you'd be
well,
insane to say no to that. Okay. Now, how each couple gets there is going to be a different path because they all have their histories themselves and their history together and all of that. So, having that, how do they know? Well, I educate them on that because the thing is, a lot of people don't understand a good framework for. I do act like a kid at times. Yeah, when I shut down and pout and walk away, that's not no different than what a 2-year-old does. Or if I throw a temper tantrum, that's what that young kid is doing. Okay, so I'm listening. I spend a lot of time listening to their story, and I'm in my mind, I'm taking notes, I'm recognizing this is a sign of immaturity. Like when a person gets stuck in certain emotions, if they do things to escape certain feelings because they can't handle them, that's a sign of immaturity. And there's a specific thing they need to learn to do, which is how do I get back to joy?
true.
When someone does do something that feels hurtful, that stings, am I able, do I go to a bottle with 40% alcohol and drink it to get rid of the pain? Or am I mature enough to find a path to where I can get back to, I'm back to enjoying you now. I didn't numb the pain. There's lots of things people do, but that's just one sign of maturity. Another real common sign that I see is wives coming in, typically wives, and they're saying, my husband never admits they're wrong. They blame me for everything. I'm tired of it. It's not all my fault. I know he's got contributions to it, and he just blames me. So the second stage of maturity is where you learn to take care of yourself. So first stage, mom and dad take care of us.
True.
When they do that well, we're motivated to learn in many ways, what does it mean to take care of me? I can pick out my own clothes. I can tie my own shoes. I can put whole sentences together. We're motivated to learn to do that, so we learn to take care of ourselves. If we're stuck at that stage, when stress hits as an adult and we don't know how to take care of ourselves, we blame everybody else for the problems. That's just common sense. We'll blame the government, we'll blame the school board, we'll blame the teacher, we'll blame the doctor, we'll blame the neighbor, we'll blame the trash company, we'll blame our spouse. And it's just a big telltale sign of like, I don't know how to handle myself in this situation and turn this into not being an issue and just work through it and stuff. So as I present, so I mentioned 2 stages there, actually 3. Someone takes care of you. You learn to take care of yourself. You learn to continue to take care of yourself and one other person, so you're both satisfied. That's the marriage level there, and then you get to parenting. As I explain these things to people, they're like, you're connecting the dots, makes total sense. It's not that my goal is they don't argue me, but they don't argue me. They're like, it's just so apparent. And so I'm like, okay, so does this describe what you've been dealing with? Now let's find out what the specific path for you is to get through that. So a lot of times they don't realize they're mature enough or not mature enough to get married before they're married. And then it shows up.
I got you. So like there has to be a certain level of accountability in place where both parties have to be like, okay, cool, this is the way, I'm responding and I need to learn how to grow from this place.
Yes. Without feeling shame that you're bad, you're not good enough. It's just like, what's the worst thing that happens if I admit that I messed up? What's the worst thing that would happen if I admit I always interrupt you? You'd probably say, thank you for acknowledging that. Oh, that's the worst. Okay. But so many of us have so much rejection and shame and things inside us that we just can't even open up that little bit of us and be vulnerable, right? When a heart is open, whatever is inside comes out. And so people come to me and their hearts are closed. Sometimes they've got secrets. And as they move closer in the 15 hours, if I'm doing an intensive with them, as they move closer, the heart opens. And all of a sudden on Wednesday, that husband who said he was going to take his affair to the grave with him, and she was never going to find out. He's just offering. He's dropping a bombshell on her for sure,
Yeah.
right? But he's like, I want to be. I like this. I like this being closer to you, but I know I can't move any further without opening up and stuff coming out. I got to admit my failures, my weaknesses, my needs, and I create that environment where they see like, hey, it's possible. I could be that honest. I could be that open, and I know it's going to have a better impact on our relationship, and we'll be happy. So they take those steps.
I got you. And do you ever see that there's like a pushback for like couples to really like open up to each other? Like they don't want to like, how can I say it? They don't want to spill all their secrets because they might be afraid that that might be used against them, or
Yep.
they don't want to confess like their true emotions because yet again they feel that that's going to be weaponized against them, and
Yeah.
not just like the man or not just the man, but both parties, because men do it too.
My example is going to be a wife, but
Yeah,
to both parties, um, it's very much that. And so when I spend the time setting up the sessions, I'll talk about things being a tool or things being a weapon, and everything that comes out of your mouth that maybe your spouse has never heard. Your fear might be it'll be used as a weapon. I want it to be a tool, and it's my job. They talk about counselors, coaches, refereeing. I don't really referee like that, but I step in and go, "Oh, that was a weapon. You weaponized that statement.
yeah,
Let's apologize right now for that, and reset and say it differently without that, and move on." So that happens when you talk about opening up. Some fascinating science about our eyes. Our eyes convey our core emotional state faster than we can think.
yeah,
So I am always turning couples, like a wife might say, well, it's not all bad. He did buy me flowers 2 weeks ago and I was grateful. Did you thank him? No. Okay. Look him in the eyes. Tell him you're thankful. And she will. And it is like that moment alone is like a Hollywood romance movie. It's like everything about her, like, wow, this is significant now. I'm looking at his eyes. That feeling is coming out my eyes to him, and it hits him. And they have a small bonding moment right there. So I had a couple, and I needed to ask them to turn their chairs and face each other. I said, so turn your chairs, swivel chairs, go knee to knee. And the wife, before she does it, she reaches in her purse, pulls out sunglasses and puts them on. And it was not a sunny day. It was cloud cover and everything. And
yeah.
we're indoors. Like, can I ask why you put the sunglasses on? And I didn't say anything about eye contact, what it does. I just said, look at each other. She said, so she put her sunglasses on. She goes, I'll tell you this. I have a stone driveway at my house. And I can, when my husband comes home with the groceries in the back of the pickup, I can walk out the front door, go down the stone driveway in my bare feet and carry heavy bags, and it doesn't hurt my feet. She goes, you want me to put cream on my feet. You want me to soften. And she put her glasses on because she didn't want to go there. The only client I ever had that never came back after day one.
Wow.
Just locked down. But she knew intuitively. We just know that eye contact's powerful, and she couldn't open up. And so my job is to find that right moment where I sense tenderness, where I sense remorse, and then have them look. And so that emotion gets connected in them. And when your heart gets those right feelings that it needs, I need to know he regrets that. I need to know he's sorry about that. When it gets that, it just pushes them in a healthy direction. When we get what we need. So my job is to find those moments, get them set up, have them engage in that process that I lead them through.
That's so dope because it's like you're there to like, I don't want to say navigate, but you're there. I want to give it something a grander thing. You're there to like rekindle that spark, reignite that inferno that once was them, right?
Yeah.
And going back to the lady who put her sunglasses on, right? And I'm just using her as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that when you make the couple, face each other and look at it, that there's like maybe like a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes where they're like, they don't know what to say, or 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 they don't know what to they're hesitant to do so, or because instinctually they know that they could like break down, or certain emotions may come up because they're looking that person like in the soul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
let's say the husband is reluctant,
Yeah.
and I notice that. I instruct the wife. I say, I just want you to look in your husband's eyes. Guess what he does with his eyes? He looks at her eyes.
Yeah.
Even though I told her to do it, he does it, and he, without me telling him to do it, and it breaks the gaze of where he was looking. I also have him hold hands. When you're within 3 feet of a person, um, your brain chemistry and function starts to match and come in a line with other people. So I gave up my physical office probably in 2014, well before COVID.
Yeah.
I was just, I was seeing people all over the world. I was using, what was it called back then? Remember the
Skype.
video? Skype, yes. Yeah. Is that still around? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think Skype is around anymore. But Skype
So I was using Skype.
Skype was the pioneer. Yeah.
What I liked about it is when you're in a video screen and together, you've got to be close to each other. Whereas I had people in my physical office, their chairs had rollers on them, and I could watch them, and I'd watch them push away and distance themselves. Always a signal to me of something's going on inside their brain. But with the Zoom format, you got to be close within that, so it actually really helps it. Another thing is, I always work with couples together.
True.
The brain's strongest drive is not for meth or cocaine or alcohol. The brain's strongest drive, what it will put its energy into most, is connecting with another human being. And if I'm working with an individual, I don't have that opportunity to create that connection and bring out that good behavior and right steps with them. Certainly not mine to carry. I would be dead if I had to connect with everybody in that level.
Yeah.
But so I keep them together, and once they get a taste of that, then the connection grows stronger, the fears go away, all of that. So that's why I like Zoom. It's as long as the two people that need to connect are together.
Yeah, as long as they're in the same vicinity and able to like kind of line up, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's so cool. That's so dope. So like, how can I say it? When it comes to the couples, right? And you're making them reconnect and you're making them open up. What's like the primary emotion that comes out of most people? Is it usually like the husbands that break down first, or is it the wives, or is it like a mixture of both?
I think the feelings are there pretty equally.
Okay.
I think the women can show a little bit more emotion, like it's a little more demonstrative.
Yeah.
They're reaching for the Kleenex more. They got more tears coming than the husband. I am trusting a lot of times that there's something inside going on. But when I see gestures on the husband's part, like just putting his hand on his wife's leg or shoulder or leaning in the slightest bit, I know there is feeling inside. And now my job is to amplify that and draw that out and make sure she sees it and experiences it as well. So I think she tends to show it more, but it's equally felt.
Okay. And do people actually fall out of love, or is it more just a story they tell themselves to like kind of move like the breakup forward?
Yeah, that's like a general. He who generalizes generally lies. So if you're going to give me a general statement like I've fallen out of love, you're generally lying, and there's probably something more accurate that you could be saying that's more, but you're not being honest and not fully truthful. And so they put that out there because it's like, what do you do if you're the spouse hearing that? It paralyzes you. Like you don't know how to respond. You're probably going to respond in the wrong way. So you don't do anything. So it's a very effective way to remove yourself from a relationship where you no longer want to be committed to, And when you might have good reasons,
Yeah.
you know, needs not being met all the way to horrible abuse and stuff like that. But it's just not good communication. I I can't think of a person who said that in any of my sessions.
Okay.
I think it might be language among friends when they're
Yeah.
out for coffee or something like that. Oh, I just don't love them anymore. I've fallen out of love with them,
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
stuff to get the conversation going. But like we talked about resentment and bitterness
Yeah.
before, right? The truth is, honestly, I let bitterness creep in. I let judgment creep in. I let a self-centeredness around me and how I was being hurt be more important than how maybe I was hurting you. Like that's the real stuff. Let's break it down. And if I came across someone who said that, I'd challenge them to do that. Let's talk about that. Let's break that down. Let's be clear.
No,
And go
no,
ahead.
I completely get you on that, and I say it in that fashion because once a person, and coming from my own experiences, once a person kind of like feels that resentment, that bitterness, and they close up, they kind of just want to be like, that's it. Like, I really don't feel like discussing it because it's like it's opening up a wound again.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go to that excuse. Yeah, I just fell out of love with that person,
Yeah.
even though it might be like a plethora of other things that came to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say there the emotional energy's gone. I don't
Yeah.
want to put the energy into it again. And I would rather have a couple come in rip roaring, snorting, fighting like crazy than a couple come in and without talking and just sit down and look at me. Right? You need energy to create. And so I'd
Yeah.
rather have the hostile couple, even though it sounds pretty bad, like things are really, really hurting there, because at least you got something to work with.
Yeah, because as long as they got that energy, even though they're like arguing and being like hostile and nasty towards each other, that energy could be easily turned into from a negative one to a positive one
Yep.
once you find the root cause. If two
Root
people
cause.
are not putting in that energy into it, they're not bridging the gap, I would say, and connecting, because you need energy to connect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I grade
Oh,
you an A plus on your knowledge and wisdom. No joking at all, man. You really
man,
understand
nah,
this.
bro. I'm just vibing with you. Oh, quick question though. When you're like, after your sessions up with these couples and they're kind of on the right path again, are any of them shocked that they're starting to realize that their marriage or their relationship is actual work as well? Like, you have to work at it because you're growing, and every day you're growing, you're changing up a little bit, and you may not be the same man or woman you were 10 years ago when you met your spouse.
Hmm. I haven't heard them say that, probably because a lot of them I never see again.
Yeah.
But I would hope
You know.
that's where they go to, and they see like this is work. The marriage everybody wants to have, wherever you are today, where you want it to be, it's going to take work. It's going to take intentionality. It's going to take work. Sometimes the work is learning to be vulnerable. Sometimes the work is learning to first focus on your spouse, um, and ask more questions before giving your opinion. Like there's skills, there's patterns to be broken. That's work. There's noticing stuff, good and bad. That's work. It is all work. Um, that is probably something I need to share in like first sessions with them. Is like, this is work. I always talk about the work on the other side of the screen or the
Yeah.
other side of the desk. They do have the hard part. I know that they become my heroes, a lot of them, because I see them doing the really hard stuff, and so they're told that it's going to be work. I think they realize it.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
they certainly know, um, if things didn't go as well as they planned in counseling, they'll know what work they did not do,
Yeah.
whether they chose not to do it, it was just too painful, whatever their reasons are. It'll be clear, and they'll walk away owning that. And if it's success, I do want them to realize that's because you put in the work.
So roomies, you gotta put in that work.
That's right.
No slack. But have you had any like memorable stories or like wild stories about like a couple coming in and then they just, they come in hating each other, then they leave your office or like, oh my god, it's like a renewal on life for them?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, let us know.
All
Let
right.
us know.
Couple, they're one of those high energy couples that come in the way I want them,
Yeah.
upset at each other. They came out of state. I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado. They came from somewhere in Arizona. So flew in, got a rental car. They came for a 15-hour intensive, and I don't do those often now, but where needed, I do them. They came for the 15 hours. So what brings you here today? And one of them started, and the other one got offended and just started blaming them. And the husband was the first one. He grabbed the car rental keys off the desk, stormed out of the office. She like panicked, like, what am I going to do? I don't know where he is. I'm in a place I don't know. I'm like, don't worry, he's going to come back. And he came back and said, let's try this again. And another fight started. I spent the entire first session, so that's 3 hours on Monday morning, those 3 hours, getting them in the room long enough to agree to come back together on Tuesday.
All right, cool.
They did. They come in on Tuesday. And I just took the lead. I said, listen, here's where we're going today. I want to hear his story. And I give people very specific things I want to know about their history. And he started talking, and I cannot remember all of it. I remember a lot of abuse. I remember him, the son got in an argument with the dad. The dad killed the son's horse with a shovel and then threw the shovel at him and said, bury it.
Jesus.
Yeah. He, as an adult, this guy, my client, he got in a fight in a bar with a coworker and got embarrassed in the fight. And the next day he severed his harness that they were using on the bridge work they were doing, and the guy fell and injured himself. He broke up. His dad pimped out his sister, and he did some not nice stuff to a guy who was taking advantage of his sister. So he had a rough going. And and then in his story, he talks about how in their marriage he slept with prostitutes. That's one of the reasons they were there. He was cheating. And he tells a story. He slept with prostitutes. She found out. She burned the wedding pictures. He found out. He put Drano in the tropical fish collection, just this evil for evil going on. So that's the whole story, okay? He gives the whole story from the shop. At the end of his story, she had gotten out of her chair and was sitting on his lap in his chair with her arms around his neck. And I thought, I'm going to test this. I said, what, like, was your chair not comfortable for you? Like, no, it's fine. I said, well, you're sitting on the man's lap who cheated on you with prostitutes. Put her right back in her face, right? And she's like, yeah, I get that. But didn't you hear his story? Don't you understand what he went through? I get that. By having him tell his story, it framed everything that we were going to be talking about. She had a reason to be like, oh, this happened, but this happened back here. And that allowed them to move forward. We had a great week, and 3 months later, my wife and I got an invitation, paid for a trip to California because they wanted to renew their vows on the beach. And we went out there, and they just walked along the beach in front of us. And she said, I'll know when it's right. It'll be the lighting. It'll be the waves. It'll be everything. And she goes, now. And we just did remarriage or rededication of vows to each other. We went out for dinner, and then several months after that got a letter announcing their first child and how happy they were as a couple to be having that. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Nah, that right there is a dope story. Like,
yeah,
you don't get that often, you know what I mean? Or at least you don't, because I know that you only work with couples in that 15-hour window. Like, that follow-up is amazing. Like, I don't even know. You must have felt. How did you feel when you found out about the first kid and all that stuff?
Yeah, it is so overwhelming. There's so much pride in them because I know they did the work,
Yeah.
um, and hopeful for their future. Very celebratory with them, celebrating along with them what they were being able to experience. Those new, what do they call those, like, moments along the way? Benchmarks or sort of things, or it was like a
Milestones.
milestones. Yeah, like the renewing of the vow milestone, the child milestone, all that stuff. I love celebrating those successes and wins with them. It's
That's so dope.
satisfaction. It's what I'm made to do.
That's so dope. And then my follow up question just brings us right back down. I'm so sorry about this, but when through your experience, who do you see checks out emotionally first, the men or the women?
In a relationship, in a marriage,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't see them. I see them after that's happened, and I will ask, like, I'll ask for that specific moment. When did things shift for you? And
Okay.
they'll tell me that, and it's usually, because it's something together. A lot of times the downhill, they're holding hands going downhill.
I
Um,
got you.
so
So can you like kind of tell me the difference between a couple that could survive and move forward on these crises versus a couple that can't?
one really big thing, and it has nothing to do with me, is the strength of their community.
Okay.
So I've done over 500 of those intensives, and every couple, as part of me asking their story and things, I ask every couple, who do you have as community? Who do you have that, and this is key, that you both agree with are good people to be talking stuff with, sharing about your marriage and your struggles and stuff. So you have to agree on it. Who do you have that when a problem hits, they stand you up, dust you off, and point you back to each other to do the right thing for the relationship? And it's always nobody. And only recently, probably in the last 2 weeks, did I have the second person ever say my parents. So it was 1 out of 500 plus that ever
Mm.
said, oh, my parents are people I could go to. And you can just feel the strength of it. You have that just because you can recall the advice your dad gave you,
Yeah.
in regards to marriage and stuff. I don't have a single piece of advice from my family on dating or marriage. Nothing. Of, like, my warehouse is empty up here, and
Yeah.
the couples come and they don't have that. And I tell them, if you want the progress we make in our time together, if you want it to be a fixture in your life, not just something that's a momentary breakthrough right now, you have to have that type of community in your life that you can go to when you need it for the long haul.
No, I got that. And you know what's crazy? You're the first person that when I've ever like spoken about relationships or like people like getting back with each other, you're the first person who ever mentioned like a strong community is good for like, making sure that a couple stays together or at least like tries to work it out.
Yeah.
And nowadays in modern society, you really don't see that. You know what I mean? Like you'll have like a a wife will turn to her friends. They'll be like, "Oh, f him. You could do better."
Yes.
Da, da, da. A husband will turn to his friend. They'll be like, "Yo, f her. You could go out and do 1,000 chicks. You'll be all right." You know what I
Right.
mean? Or they'll
Yep.
tell him to man up or whatever. Like, but you're the first person to ever say that. Having a community, having somebody that will not only stand you up, but also tell you when you're wrong
Yep.
and point you back to your relationship. You're the first person to ever really like mention that and
Let's
show
get the
them.
word out there, bro.
We up, baby. That's what we're doing. We're getting the
Yeah.
word out there. But like
Yeah.
when it comes to community, right?
Hmm.
How important is community to like a person's marriage or relationship? Like on a scale of like 1 to like 10.
Ugh. I probably wouldn't do it on a scale. Uh, I would think of it as, like, the work that they do is really
Yeah.
important, and this supports that. Um, gives them other places to get some needs met. If you're not, if you're frustrated because your spouse never appreciates you, it's not all on them. You could actually
True.
get those emotions met other places, volunteering with your friends if they know what they are. So it's just so intertwined. Okay, so the picture of there's a Bible verse about a 3-strand cord. Three strands is not easily broken, right? So that's why I say woven together. It's woven in there. You and your spouse are doing your work, but there's that third thing in there that just makes it so hard to pull anything apart.
I got you.
I'd give it it's a third. I'll give you
Okay.
It's a third of it.
Okay, cool. I got that. And all right. And this is something I've always wanted to ask too. Like couples that make their relationship their identity, right?
What does that sound like or look like to you when you say that?
Like, how can I explain it? Like when two people get with each other, or like, they're getting married, that nothing else, I wouldn't say like, they start forgetting about their friends, they start forgetting about their family, that their identity revolves around that core relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 when they break up, they're lost trying to rediscover who they were.
Yeah.
Like I always want to know what's detrimental about that, and how important it is to keep your own identity within the relationship as well.
I'm going to add another element to that, and that's the chemical aspect of the relationship. That's very powerful in the first couple years, for sure. The first 18 months, and those chemicals, they lessen your critical thinking skills, because they say, like, if you thought through your relationship critically, you'd probably never go very far in your relationship. So we need to tone this down and let them get enough of that, right? And then there's the chemicals of excitement, there's the chemicals of connection and bonding and all that stuff, and it gets those run higher in that relationship than with your friends. They've kind of died down there. You're never gonna dress up, fix yourself all up with excitement going out with your friends as you are with that person you're dating or going into marriage with. And that's all chemical based. And so a lot of the relationship is held together and enjoyed because of that. And you do lose your identity in ways. I'll insert this here. We've all heard the phrase mind-blowing sex.
Yep.
Where does that come from? Well, I don't know who said it first, but what they found is a brain in orgasm looks exactly like a brain in electric shock therapy.
Goddamn.
Boom. That's what electric shock therapy does. It blows your brain and all its patterns and connections and disorganizes it. So all those troubles you have go like this. And then over time, they find their way back and you come back together. Well, that thing in the brain is the same thing that happens when you orgasm. You have this mind-blowing sex. And then what happens is then in the moments following, the two brains reform, but you're more connected. Your brain is more like the person you just experienced that with. And so you are losing your identity. You are creating a new identity of the two of you together at that level. And so we understand that then when the pain comes of a breakup, it's like, how do I get that out of my brain? Like we are wired. Our synapses are similar. And like, I have that in my brain, but I don't have that person in front of me anymore. A mature person will go into marriage with their own identity.
Yeah.
And so you don't lose that. If you have an identity, you don't lose it. You might deepen it, you might expand it, but there is a core. Like if it's made up of 5 things, you hold on to those 5 and you might get 2 more by marrying someone and expanding your identity. If you lose it, you've got an issue of maturity, and like there's not that sense of self anymore. It's gone.
I got you on that.
So community reminds you who you are. That's one thing community does. So when you break up and you start acting stupid, they go, you know what? I know you. I've known you for 10 years, and you're not acting like you. And they
I
can
get
bring
that.
you back to that. You know?
I get that. I get that. See, roomies, the importance of having your boys and having a community that's gonna tell you when you're wrong.
Yep.
Right there, you go. But right, the one thing that fascinated me, and we're gonna bring this to a more fun topic. When you had reached out to me, right?
Yeah.
You said you had like a paranormal experience before like all of this like came about and all this other things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
break it down for me. Let me hear the story, man.
Okay. So, always knew I wanted to be a counselor since like
Okay.
I say 13 years old. When I was a teenager, my friends' parents would pay for our lunches if I would go out with their kid and talk. They would say, "Would you take them out and talk common sense to them and stuff?" They just had a way of connecting and a way of bringing common sense. I had no training, no formal training. I failed psychology 101 in university. Um, just not a good student, but I'm very strategic and I'm very strong in ideas. And strategy says I will always find a way to get to where I want to go. And if I want to get you to a satisfying, enjoyable relationship, I will get a way there. And I've found some tools to do that. So I wasn't a formal counselor or anything like that, but so that's where I was at. I was working an evening job. I was married probably around 1 year, right around 1.5 years, and I was listening to talk radio on the way home from work one evening, and this guy was talking about things that we do that just seem like part of the culture, but they can tap into the spirit world and invite evil influences in your life. I thought, oh, I never heard that before, just cultural stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that's cultural, we just accept. And then I remembered my then wife telling me how her grandmother, she was born in Italy, came to Canada. Her grandmother would have my wife go out when there's a full moon, stand on one foot barefoot and chant some prayer to the moon for some reason. So I was sitting in the living room. She goes, "How was work tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, it's good." And I said, "I heard this interesting thing on talk radio on the way home. The guy said this." I said, "I wonder if because your grandmother had you do that, if you like got any crazy spirit stuff on you." And her face just went, "I am going to kill you." It was like, whoa, whoa. And I felt that. I was like that. It brought that fear of like, uh-oh. And I'll say this no, I'll leave that out because this isn't about her and what she was dealing with. This is about my journey. So I encountered that. And I had a friend who was a pastor, and I called him up the next day and said, "Hey, like this happened last night. What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, there's probably some evil spirit or demon or something like that involved." And he made an appointment to meet with us. It was a ways away, a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, she'd wake up in the middle of the night, terrible nightmare, something like that. And she'd wake up and she'd be like holding her throat and she couldn't breathe and she couldn't talk. And it's not like she was choking. It was just like, couldn't talk or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, we had two young kids in the bedroom next to us, blood curdling screams. Like you would think the worst torture was happening to them. I run out of bed, open their door, and they're just sound asleep like nothing. And it's like, okay, something was here and it left. And when it left, it got loud. And all I thought of, well, it must be my kids. Something terrible went on. That went on a few times. And so she went through stuff, like what we would most likely or most closely identify with as like some sort of exorcism or casting out of these spirits and stuff. And that stuff stopped. People heard about that, I guess probably from us talking about it, what's going on. And they would start telling me stuff going on in their home or in their relationship. And they go, "Do you think you could help us with that?" I'm like, "Man, like I don't know a lot." but I know some stuff, and I'd work with them on that. I said early on, and if a lamp floats across your room and you don't know why, let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
And so, I would help these people with stories of ghosts chasing them. There was one time a lady came from another city, and so she stayed in our guest room, and she came because she was being chased around her house by a ghost, and she'd run out onto the street, and the ghost would never come off her porch, so she'd have to run in the front yard. And so she came for help with that. And so she was in our guest room, and we're getting ready for bed, and there's a knock at the door, and it's her, and she's like, it's downstairs, it's sitting in the rocking chair in my bedroom. Right? Well, there was no rocking chair in her bedroom in the first place. So I went down, looked, there was nothing. We went upstairs, we started talking. Then I start smelling smoke. Now I don't know how I come across to you. I'm pretty level-headed, common sense. I started smelling smoke, and it was so strong. I said, I got to step outside and see if the roof's on fire.
Yeah.
It was like heavy. And I go outside, and like, there's nothing. It's like, oh, okay, that's another type of thing that can happen when there's evil spirits involved in a situation. And we helped her get rid of that stuff from going on. There's people who, some of it was looked like mental illness. Sometimes it definitely was. I had one husband who would bring his wife, he'd check her out of the mental hospital, drive her for an appointment. He'd reintroduce me every time as if it was the first time this lady was meeting me. She was so doped up on medicines and everything in the hospital, and he wanted to see if I could help her. I think that was more an organic cause. If you got some issues and a pill helps, that's a pretty good sign that it's an organic issue. If a Snickers and a nap helps, that's probably all you needed.
Yeah.
But if when your husband walks out of the bedroom at night to get a glass of water and you feel a demon come under the covers of the bed and rape you, that's a different. No Snickers going to help that. And so,
You need to call Ghostbuster or a priest.
Did you wear that shirt for me tonight? I love it.
It was that's a coincidence. That's a big coincidence. I just threw it in there. I had to make a joke about it.
I thought that right away. Yeah, but that's it. So I say if a lamp floats across your room and you don't know why, let's talk. If your spouse throws the lamp at you, let's talk. And then I say, if I've added, if the lamp hits you in the head and something's off in your brain, our brains run relationship. And so there's certain elements with our brains that I've learned about that create connection and co-regulating and healing of trauma and all that stuff. So it's all tied to a lamp. The lamp is the secret. We just got to figure out what it's doing, if it's being thrown at you because your spouse is upset, or if something else is poltergeisting its way across your room, and do that. So that was my introduction into that. And it turned into people saying, you helped me with that. Will you help me with our marriage? I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Not a great line you want to put on a business card. I'll give it a shot. But that was 30 years ago, and I've been giving it a lot of shots since.
Well, I got a good line for you. I got a good line for you for the 2026 era. I'll help you if you got a ghost or getting ghosted.
Ooh,
gotcha.
See, I got paper here because I knew I was going to come away with something, but you said more than that. So a lot of people don't know where to go with that if that's happening in their lives.
Yeah.
I'm not a crusader. I don't go and look at like, oh, the bad things happening is from some evil spirit or a demon or something like that. I don't. But if you got something that is too strong of an issue that you can't break through on, there could be something there. But I listen to people's stories. I look for the signs. Have you ever done anything that might invite some kind of evil influence or presence on your life? It's kind of like when you subscribe to an email list, you got to do some stuff to subscribe. You got to check off, enter your email, confirm the confirmation email. And we do things that can opt us into these evil influences on our life. And then we just reverse it. Like, well, if I want to get out of that email subscription, I've got to go to the website, click on my name, unsubscribe, all emails, and you just work it out in reverse. It's not something to get super freaked out about, but people don't know where to go. And they fear it's going to look like some kind of movie of
True.
exorcisms or some TV show on TV. And also, I help people that want to stop bad stuff from happening that could be caused by that, and get rid of it. But unless you think something's going on, it's like, let's just talk about resentment,
True.
because that could be
And
the biggest issue.
and also to add on to the whole, with the whole spookiness thing, right, and the paranormal, I've noticed that with a lot of people that come from, immigrant families, that there's certain traditions or rituals that, a grandmother will pass down to, your mother, and then your mother will pass down to you. A lot of that stuff comes from a place of good, but yet because of the fact that they're not taught the purpose of it or how to respect it, it turns out bad.
Very wise.
Yeah.
Very, very wise. That can happen.
Yeah.
I can listen to a person's story. Like I said, I give a lot of time to listening to their stories, and I ask for some generational stuff. And like some guy will say, "Oh, I don't know, I haven't met all of them, but I know all my dad, grandfather, great grandfather, they all died of a heart attack at 46." Okay, that to me that's a flag. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Coincidence? Could be. And sometimes I will not have known where they lived or anything, but I'll say, like, did you live on land that was like had a native occupancy and stuff? And they'll be like, yeah, we did. And sometimes there's things like curses on land, and if you grow up on that land, the curses can follow you in life. I've had people who like have the organ transplants, and then they start having the dreams of
The other person.
stuff that the person, right, and that goes with. How do you get rid of that? What do you do with that?
That's
But it causes fear in them, and the fear interrupts their marriage. So I want to deal with it, and we find ways to do that. Just
true on that. And Keith, thanks for being on, man. I really appreciate you. And
Hey.
before I let you go, I always ask this question to all my guests. Do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or any advice for the roomies?
I would say pursue joy. If there's anything you've wanted to stop doing, get rid of in your life, even if it's as powerful as an addiction, if it's just a habit, if you have tried for more than 3 days to stop it, stop trying to stop it and pursue joy, because joy is relational. Happiness is like, oh, I'm putting on my Ghostbusters shirt today. I'm happy, right? Joy is when you get off the call and your buddy's there with you in the studio and you look at each other and go like, oh, that was great. That's joy. That's relational.
Yeah.
And that is the state that your brain is designed to, that's normal for your brain.
Yeah.
And when that's normal, you can delay gratification. You can make satisfying decisions. You can think through the possible outcomes of decisions and be critical thinking. It boosts your immune system, just everything in your body. If it's overactive or underactive, it just comes up to here a little bit more with every experience of joy. So joy, we said emotions come out our eyes. Joy comes out our left eye because our right side's emotional, everything crosses over.
Yeah.
Comes out our left eye. If you've got to deal with a difficult relative, family member, coworker, anything like that, really try to convey joy to them. Look left eye to left eye, and they will say things like, that was one of the best talks we ever had. I was dreading this, Thanksgiving with you, but it turned out being really good. I've had people do that when they come back from that assignment. You are giving life. You give life to other people by giving them joy, and the thing is, gets mirrored back in a sixth of a second. So you're getting it back in you, and you're actually taking care of yourself. By giving joy, you're getting joy, and you're having a more fulfilled life.
And that's a big fact. And roomies, remember, anything in this life that brings you joy, brings you happiness, or is worth a damn, it takes a little bit of work. So get your asses moving. Peace out.